Reining in Canada's population growth. Rents are flat across the country in Canada as international student interest has cratered. How does that affect your investment hypothesis? Short-term rentals part two with experts Spencer and Ashley. Quote, marry sooner, have more kids, ignore the costs, says Uber capitalist Kevin O'Leary. Big announcement and so much more on this week's episode of The Truth About Real Estate Investing for Canadians. My name is Rowan Cito, your host and producer since 2016, and 300 plus episodes later, all an hour long or more. Thank you to my listeners and for the kind words you've shared, and thank you for the updates and your personal truths around your own real estate investing. I appreciate that anytime someone tells me a story about how their investments are going, that helps develop the investment hypothesis of myself in this show. And somewhat related, I did not know that so many of my fellow podcasters are no longer releasing new episodes. Many of them are my friends, and there are some I believe who should stop. A simple Google of the names of folks who borrowed tens and hundreds of millions and are going bankrupt. That alone will let you know who gave them their platform and promoted them, and some of them even earned commissions in helping them sell what are now defunct investments. Uh, always follow the money. Understand how folks make their money. I'm always very happy to explain how I make money in real estate, both as an investor and in doing business development for real estate. For example, I am a realtor in Ontario, and I have another announcement to explain the US stuff. So I always factor that into your screening process of who to trust and what investments you should be investing in. I review many deals all the time. Uh, Now, onto the news. Did you know that the front runner to become our next Prime Minister of Canada said he would reduce population growth to match growth of new homes built and factor in healthcare access and jobs? Makes a lot of sense, eh? Now, I'm not here to discuss politics. I just look at the trends from the polling data. Pierre Poilievre looks like a clear favorite to become our next prime minister, looking like a majority. So again, all I'm doing is trying to factor in where things are going and how that should affect my investing. Because why I don't really care to discuss politics with anyone. I'm more interested in what this means for my clients and my business and my investments. Of course, I always have the sources linked in my show notes. Again, this was an article from the CBC. Again, link in the show notes. Now, a couple problems. Housing starts across Canada are way down as building and development costs are extremely high. It is real estate winter. A lot of people are not buying, while interest rates are still remain high. New construction sales are low as the market needs time to digest these historic number of new construction condos and historic number of listings, especially the small condos, which could take, 1.5, 2 years per Benjamin Tall, Deputy Chief Economist for CIBC. I've posted some charts. If you don't follow Dr. Mike Moffat on Twitter, I can't recommend that you do enough because again, he posts brilliant graphs and data and commentary on housing markets, and of course things like international students, housing starts, yada yada yada. Anyways, again, I've got a link to show notes on some posts from Dr. Mike Moffat. For example, Toronto's housing starts this past year are they're above 2021 and 2022, but yeah, I don't think anyone's confident that will last for very long. Not with sales being quite low, especially in new construction, sales being quite low across Canada. Now, combine that with flat rents across Canada as demand from international students have cratered. Again, I posted a screenshot of a post by Dr. Mike Moffat from early September, how international student reforms the federal government have made earlier this year have provided substantial rent relief. We did not see rent spikes across Canada. Rents are actually quite flat over the last 12 months from August 2023 to August 2024. And so if you're not familiar with what happened, the federal government wants a 35% reduction in the number of international students. And the stat that I've seen is that applications are down 45%. So yeah, the Globe and Mail is reporting how Google searches of student housing near universities in Waterloo, Hamilton, and Kingston are down 46 to 55%. So we're seeing several data points that reflect a declining interest, significantly reduced interest by international students. So personally, my investment hypothesis is forever changing. I'm constantly learning. And that's shaped my own experience and what I hear from real estate experts, like real ones. And I'm always looking at what they're doing with their own money. My hypothesis is focused on cash flow, long-term growth in rents and prices, if that was news to anyone. For the local investor, knowing that rents are flat and in the current market, again, this is current market. All we can ever do is understand what's in the current market and make predictions with what we have to predict with. And reduced demand from international students and immigrants. What do you think will happen to your cash flow, your rent growth, and appreciation over the long term? Right? I still have a number of properties in Ontario, Canada, so I'm concerned. I'm concerned if lowering interest rates and lack of supply will be enough to push my prices up. Because yes, I absolutely love prices to go up and rents to go up in Canada, especially in Ontario where my properties are. However, with economic and immigration landscape the way it is, should a Canadian investor invest their hard-earned money into local markets? I personally know I would not deploy more capital into long-term rentals, at least where in the markets I invest in Ontario. Now, on the other hand, legal short-term rentals and hotels, that's another matter. As small Airbnbs operators get squeezed out by governments, they're incredibly out of favor, even though they cause very little disturbance to long-term rental markets. Anyways, this is exactly why we have experts in Ashley and Spencer back on the show. But before we get to them, can you believe Kevin O'Leary said, "Take my advice, get married sooner, have more kids. Family is everything. That's what it's all about." Do you agree? And now I'm just quoting the exact post on Kevin O'Leary's on his social media page, specifically his LinkedIn. Again, I've posted a link to his LinkedIn. His Instagram. His Instagram. Anyways, again, I posted the link to his Instagram in the show notes. Kevin explains how he wishes he would have spent more time with his kids when they were young, and I couldn't agree more. I've interviewed hundreds of successful entrepreneurs and investors. Almost all of them would agree with Kevin in how parents can never get back those wonderful years of development while kids are still young. My decision to make my portfolio more passive by delegating to Share, who's managing my assets in the US, frees me up to spend more time doing what I enjoy, which is my work, including this podcast, and helping hardworking Canadians on their journey towards financial peace. And when I'm not working, I love to spend time with my wife and my kids. My kids are a lot of fun at the age that they're at. They still think I'm cool and they laugh at my jokes. All the while, with my real estate portfolio, especially in the States, I'm still a direct owner, which is what I consider the best asset class, which is real estate, cash flowing real estate, while maintaining 100% control while someone else does all the heavy lifting for me. Share's business is exactly what I envisioned for my own professional services as a realtor and guiding my clients as a coach, because I always wanted them to have as easy as possible real estate investing, as operationally easy as possible, and to be as passive as possible in Ontario. But that's just not possible in this market landscape. With affordability being so bad, when so many people can't even afford to cash flow enough to afford a property manager, and then you add to that rent control, so then your cash flow doesn't ever get better while inflation just gets worse. And of course, tenants have all the rights in Ontario. And that's what I'm hearing from my BC friends as well. Now I've got the big news to share that I'm incredibly excited about. As you know, my real estate journey started way back in 2005 when I became a novice landlord. And then I got serious in 2008 when it worked out really well. Uh, that's when I began formally learning about real estate investing, treating it like a business. And since then, I've always had my eye on landlord-friendly USA. Economic fundamentally and landlord rights, it always made a lot of sense. There's better cash flow, more stable tenant laws, as in favor of the landlord, etc. But the challenges of getting financing, building a power team I could trust, finding the right deals, and managing properties from across the border just kept me from jumping into that market. Well, I'm thrilled to announce that I've recently taken on a new role as head of business development in Canada for Share. This partnership is a game changer for anyone looking to invest in the US market like I've always wanted to do, like I am doing now. I bought a house in San Antonio, Texas just recently. Share's eliminated all my hurdles that once held me back. Financing, we have the contacts. One of them just emailed me today. They have now they have now signed 4,500 lenders ready to lend to Canadians. Deal sourcing, including off-market, check. Ongoing property management, we at Share can handle it all. With Share, I get to be a passive US landlord, I've been a landlord for 20 years, so I have plenty of experience. I've owned over 40 properties personally. I don't enjoy it and will gladly pay someone else to do it while I still get to remain a direct investor with 100% ownership and full control. 100% of the equity is mine. I just have to pay fees. It's a dream come true for me as a nerdy investor. I think you all know I'm a really nerdy investor. I've comparison shopped so many deals over this, even just this podcast of well over 300 interviews. I get to keep 100% of the equity, and that's exactly how my 45 past clients made, the ones who made $1 million or more in investing in real estate. They had control, 100% of the equity. They gave none of that control or equity up. So if you've ever been interested in U.S. real estate investing, now is the time to take a serious look. If you've been waiting for the perfect moment to invest in the US but didn't know where to start, this is probably it. The best place to start is my website, iwin.sharesfr.com. Link is again in the show notes. Or you can attend one of our US investing workshops. We have one coming up on October 19th. That's an all-day Saturday morning. We have limited seats in person, and they always sell out. So check it out. But if you want to come in person, make sure you buy a ticket ASAP, because again, they always sell out. If the $30 entry fee is too much for you, I'm offering another free training event in late November. Obviously, it won't be nearly as in-depth and detailed as the US investing workshop, but at least it's free, and that'll be in late November. The writing's on the wall. I don't see much of a future for everyday investing in Canada when deals that we're finding at Share are just simply better. On to this week's show, a topic that I'm a big fan of. Indirectly, we're talking about avoiding long-term rentals in tenant-friendly provinces like Ontario. Hence, we have Spencer and Ashley Giles back for round 2. If you don't already know, vacation rentals are a business, 24/7 businesses for some Airbnb managers like Spencer and Ashley, who are pretty forward about that. So they're back to share more. We're going to dig deeper into the strategy, because last time we only had an hour. This time we're back to go level 2, get more into the details of the strategy, including operating and owning Airbnbs in the US. Their management portfolio consists of over 50 properties. Some of them are their own. The vast majority are for clients, and they are quite spread out. They're all over. They're all in great markets across Ontario and upstate New York, which they more recently expanded to just the last few years. So they have a lot of diverse experience to share. They have a lot of experience to pull from in terms of what the best practices are. And I always love learning from people who know their stuff, who are doing it, who put their own money into it. And yeah, in my experience, those are the people you want to learn from. To follow Ashley and Spencer, their website is, I should have said, spencerandashley.com. Spencer Ashley.com, and their Instagram is also Spencer and Ashley on Instagram. Please enjoy the show. About yourselves.
Sure. So we're Spencer and Ashley. Ashley and Spencer will go either way. We are Canadian real estate investors, predominantly in the short-term rental market. We have a short-term rental management company, which is Travelux. So we co-host basically for owners in the short-term rental space. And then we also own a couple short-term rentals in Niagara and a little bit in upstate New York.
Very cool. And then your Instagram handle is literally Spencer and Ashley.
Yes, very easy.
Yes, very easy. Adam doesn't follow you, but this is Adam's account. It's not my account. So you've been on this show before, so we're here for like a part 2 to expand on everything. Before we were recording, we talked about like the 3 levels of being in short-term rentals. Can you explain what that is? I don't think everyone understands that.
There's definitely like multiple ways that you can get involved, and there's just different ways that you can go about it. Obviously, the purchasing of it and doing everything with your capital in, where you're acquiring a property and then turning it into short-term rentals, that's one. Then there's the arbitrage model, which is where you're going to landlords, so you don't actually own the property. You're going to landlords and getting them to agree to letting you kind of sublease it on Airbnb or other vacation rental platforms. So you're usually putting your smaller down payment of rent first and last, maybe security deposit, and then the cost of furniture. So it's a good way for people to get in and get their skin in the game for a lot less money. And then there's the management side, which is the one that we do. We don't do any arbitrage at the moment, and that is just giving out our expertise and time to investors. So the investors are buying the property, they're furnishing it, they're putting all the capital in, and then they're essentially handing the keys over to us to run it for a management fee. So it's very little capital involved for us as the management, but they're getting more of like a hands-off experience, right? They're getting the revenue management, they're getting the cleaners, the complete operation system, our expertise, without having for them to kind of dive in and get their hands dirty there.
So for the novices experience, for their knowledge, so what's the day-to-day for your client then?
For our client,
Yeah.
we try to make it hands-off as possible. So they typically come to us when they have a property. It may be furnished, it may not be. We kind of help them with like our supply list. This is what you need to get to the property. So they have to do upfront work on getting the house furnished and getting all the supplies there. And we help. We have resources and like an onboarding specialist who helps guide them. And then once the property goes live, like we like to make it very hands-off. Some owners like to be a little bit more hands-on, like they want to know about maintenance items or about supplies needed. But we have some owners who we speak to every 3-4 months, and they get sent their money every month with a detailed statement breaking down all the income coming in, all the expenses, and they obviously get the difference. They see our management percentage coming off the top as well, and they get the money directly into their account every single month. So it kind of depends on the owner itself, and that's why we actually as a company have an owner avatar. So we're going after working with certain types of people because it makes our lives a lot easier when they see us as the subject matter experts and they let us do our job for them.
Yeah, tell us about your avatar. So yeah, explain what an avatar is and then tell us about who that is.
Sure. So an avatar would be someone that you're looking to either work with or just like either personalities or like someone you're trying to target to work with that you're looking for, like an overall profile of a person. So for us with our owners, it's more investor mindset, who want to be more hands-off. So someone who typically is in like maybe different areas of real estate and just want to get into Airbnbs but don't want to run it themselves. They see that property as an investment property to make money and not like a vacation home or a second home because they're not as emotionally attached to it. Because when our owners are emotionally attached, they tend to be a lot more involved. And that just allows us to be able to do pricing the way that we need to do it, getting the supplies there that we need to do, just getting approval for any bigger items that may be needed. And otherwise, they trust us to run it, to have a 5-star review and make them the most amount of money, because the way that our model is the more money we make our owners, the more money we make.
Right. So then someone who wants to use the property as well, that's not your client?
We're okay with that to an extent. Like obviously you have high seasons and low seasons, and you have gap fills in calendars. So like we definitely don't recommend our clients to rent out their place on like to use it themselves on like a long weekend, because a lot of the times we'll say like, hey, this is your property and you can do what you want, but just note that you're giving up $1,000 to $1,500 a night when you're going to stay here. So it's
Excuse me?
that we'll always try like not try to talk them out of it.
That's a lot of money.
But certain properties are less. But like again, I'm talking about like kind of like our higher end portfolio ones where we've had people say like, hey, what's the opportunity cost here? And we'll tell them, and most of the time they're like, yeah, okay, we'll pick a different time. So, the benefits of owning a vacation rental, and we even get to benefit this with especially our ones in Ellicottville, is you can go down and use it, but we as owners are more last minute because it's so close. We're basically saying, hey, if it's not booked by tomorrow, we're going to go tomorrow. We'll just block it off for 2 days. It's a week. It's a weekday. It's not as big opportunity cost versus blocking a weekend during the middle of ski season is like a no-go zone for us, because I know that's thousands of dollars that we're missing out on, and I'd much rather have that towards the investment than to go down and ski a 60-second hill.
Now, you touched on rental arbitrage. That's the term.
Yeah.
Can you explain why you don't do it? Like I just see like for a while I saw quite a bit of marketing on selling courses and businesses that did that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that we don't like it. I think it's actually a great opportunity if you can get involved. It's just we kind of naturally gravitated towards the management. We found it was a little bit easier to scale and to move with. Essentially, you got to convince the landlord that you're going to be doing this. You can't lie to them and say, I'm going to rent it, and then all of a sudden they find out it's on Airbnb. Yeah. We just found it more appealing that instead of having to risk putting money out with rent first and last month and furnishing it, why don't we just manage it, have our clients put all the furnishing in, and then they do the entire investment with our guidance, of course, and really kind of make the same amount of, well, it's a higher return really, but it's the same amount of cash flow if you want to look at it. Like I said, nothing that we've even looked at doing arbitrage, especially like down in the States. We still like the model. It's just we've always gravitated towards the management side.
And the scalability for management is faster as well. Like you can take on 10 clients all at one time, whereas it's a little harder for someone to find like 10 units and have the income and being able to furnish all 10 units all at one time and get that all set up. Whereas our overhead for the company and for management, especially as you start out, is very, very low. So you can take on all of that business all at one time.
Yeah. And like, obviously, like anything, there's regulation changes. If you're in a specific building that originally allows it and then the HOA votes against it, and now you're stuck with all this furniture that you might have to get storage for, like those are all things that we kind of factor in as well. But I mean, that's that really only happens to people that don't do the research and they buy in something where they don't realize that, hey, like this could happen, and they get stuck with it. The people that do really well in the arbitrage, they do their homework, and a lot of the times they're getting all their money back in 6 to 12 months anyways. So they're really, after that first year, they're in it with essentially no money attached to that, and they're making good cash flow. So, there really isn't like the best way to do it. It's really what you're comfortable with. If you're good with negotiating with landlords and getting them to, let you lease it and you can get a good rent, that's fine. I mean, yeah, you're still dealing with the landlords, but on the management side, I wouldn't say like there's definitely downfalls to that too. Now you're dealing with, like you said, owners and people that can be emotionally attached to the property. And that's why our avatar is straight investors that are looking for an ROI, and they're not as emotionally attached to it, because when we say like, hey, you should add this, they'll do it, right? And they see the return in it. We make sure to highlight it. Like, hey, you added this hot tub last year, January the year before, and you didn't have it, you made $7,000 this past January. I just want to congratulate you because you went over 10. Right? So like, I know there's more track records and other things that come involved, but I guarantee you that hot tub was a big factor, right? And just showing them that like, hey, you trusted us in making that purchase, and here's the ROI that kind of backs that. Now the next time we go and say, hey, well, you should add this, they won't question it. So that's kind of the avatar that we're looking for, the people that will see the value add and they're okay to reinvest back into the property as well.
Yeah, we were just this past weekend where we rented. My friends rented a farmhouse in Aurelia. I just stayed and booked it. But then literally my buddy that we're driving up with is asking, is there a hot tub? And I was like, I'm okay that there's not a hot tub because we got a really cheap room rate. So,
perfect.
Yeah. So yeah. But yeah, it seems to be a good thing to do with hot tubs. Now I want to talk about the darker side of this business. Like there's many reasons. Like I'm extremely risk averse. Anyone who listens to the show knows I'm extremely risk averse. I have a million reasons not to do anything, and they're all not always rooted in reality. That's why we have experts on the show like yourselves to talk to it. Like for example, like the cottage that we go to that our friends own. This past Christmas, they had the septic was backing up, right? And so the owner had to go drive up, and he's pulling animal fat and feminine hygiene products out of the whatever on Christmas. Yeah. This is not my idea of fun. Yeah. Because how do you even find someone to work on Christmas to deal with something like that?
Yeah.
I don't know how much you have to pay someone to deal with that.
At that point, if there was guests there, I would be like, I will pay you triple. Because it always has to do, you're in hospitality, right? Like you've kind of left real estate. We say this all the time. Once you get into short-term rentals, you're in hospitality. Hospitality is 24/7, 7 days a week. There are no days off. Yeah. If a guest messages you at 10 o'clock at night, you should answer. Like if a guest messages you at 7 o'clock in the morning, you should answer. On weekends, on holidays, especially on holidays and weekends, right? So, yeah, and sometimes you have to be the one, if you're the owner of the property, to go and fix the problem because a guest is there, and that is definitely a big downside. And finding trades to even go and do it that you trust can be very difficult in certain areas.
Yeah, for anyone says that Airbnbs and vacation rentals are passive income, it's completely false. It's not. It's a lot of work, right? It is. Like we get joy in it because we get a lot of families that come down, and it's how you make that guest feel when they show up to the property. Like, we do a lot of like surprise gifts and kind of try to go one step over and above. Like, if they're down celebrating like a birthday or something, we'll deliver cakes with their name on it, a bottle of champagne, like small things like that where they don't expect it. So the second they show up to the property, they're like, wow, and creating very unique properties where they're creating memories with their families. Like, that's kind of what we're trying to portray to all of our guests. But the dark side of it is that when things go south and they're having a bad experience, like, it's not only a lot of work and a pain, but it also feels bad, right? Like, you feel horrible. I genuinely feel horrible when someone does not have the experience that we try to give them. So yeah, like I said, we'll do whatever it takes to try to turn that around, because I guess, maybe it's just the human nature in us, but we travel a lot and we go on vacations, and we know how important that is to us. So when someone else isn't having that great experience that we want to try to portray, we kind of put ourselves in that shoes. And I guess that is kind of the dark side, because there's a lot of days where we just like, we get brought into that, right? We feel that like, hey, now we're having a bad day because they're having a bad day. And when you have 50 plus properties, there's a lot more things that go wrong and can go wrong. So it's hard to kind of detach yourself from that without not caring.
And the things that go wrong like to go wrong when you're out for dinner, at a family event, at the movies,
New Year's Eve.
Yeah, New Year's Eve. That's when they tend to go wrong, and you have to get on the phone, you have to deal with it. But I think having a strong team is crucial for any short-term rental investor.
And I love that you say it. What I find is with novices, they don't know what a strong team looks like.
That's fair.
Like, before we were recording, I was talking about my friend who works in tech sales in Toronto, and her partner failed her, including their team. So she's up there on weekends on her hands and knees, refinishing the deck and trying to figure out how to make the pool go back to clear versus it's green right now. Like, I can't imagine what the reviews are pretty bad on their Airbnb.
Yeah, it's the scorecard.
Could you imagine like what your reviews would be if your pool's green?
I would stop renting. I would stop renting immediately.
Eventually your listing will get suspended if you have enough of those bad reviews, right?
4.1 is pretty low, isn't it, for an Airbnb?
Under 4.2 is usually in suspension range, so they're probably very close to Airbnb saying, get your shit together. Yeah. We're going to give you a few other chances, but if this continues to go this way, they will suspend your listing, and you have to appeal it, and it usually blocks your dates for a few weeks, and it can get messy, right? So you have to usually nip that in the butt. And that's why I say, like, if you are going to hire someone to manage your property, there's a few things that you want to ask them about on how they run their operations. Like, I'm a big revenue management pricing person, so ask them about their pricing strategy. Do they have an extensive pricing strategy? Do they know what they're talking about? Are they looking at lead time, which means how far in advance that average guest is booking for that each specific month? What kind of discount strategies do they do in high and low season? Like, those are things that I would ask if we were to hire it. But also, what is your operations accountability look like? How do you work with your cleaners? How do you hold them accountable? How do you ensure that they get the place set up so the pool's not green when your guests show up? How do you hold them accountable to that? Right? Are you just trusting them? Do you have a system in place? Good management companies will have answers to all of those things. Obviously, everyone's human. Things can break and things can fall apart. Mistakes can happen, but that's another question I would ask is, how do you handle a bad review or a bad situation with a guest? And just making sure that if you are going to pay someone, because you're usually going to pay anywhere from 18 to 25+% of gross rents with management, you want to make sure that they're adding value, that they're going to bring you in more money than if you were to run it yourself, right?
But you're not a miracle worker.
No.
And you probably could have bajillions of clients if you service like Muskoka and Kawarthas. Now, Ashley made the point that you want the ideal client, and it sounds like probably the more successful investor separates personal use from business. So can you explain why you're not in Muskoka, or are you in Kawarthas?
We are in Kawarthas, yeah. We've got over 10 properties there and growing quite quickly. But
so it sounds like you can build a business in Kawarthas, not so much Muskoka.
I'm not saying we can't build in Muskoka. I think what I said
Or
before.
maybe it's harder.
Well, we're looking for one key thing, one person.
Yeah, so we just said we don't, like, we have very strict rules for who we work with, but we hold ourselves to a very high standard as well, right? So, and the people we work with and the skills that we bring to the table. And we can't, if Spencer and I aren't physically in that location, we need another us who is there, who can be the boots on the ground and run it properly. Like, we would love to, we get people for all the time, like on Instagram being like, hey, I'm in this area, I'd love for you to manage it. And I really appreciate that, but we don't have any of our systems set up there. And it would be irresponsible of us to just say, yes, let's just do it for the money, knowing that we're not 100% confident that we could give our best service without properly going through the due diligence of finding our territory manager, who's our boots on the ground, of finding and vetting and testing out cleaners, because cleaners are integral to the business, right? There's cleaners who clean just for the money, and there's cleaners who clean and care about the property, who will spend the extra time or say, hey, your pool's green, I'm going to stay until it's fixed, or I know a guy who can help you, and they're so invested. And that's what we want, is people who have vested interest in the property without having ownership, because they care, and we will pay more for that. And I find a lot of novices will be like, what's the cheapest cleaner that I can find? And then they get upset when their cleaning reviews aren't great, or their house isn't being taken care of properly.
Or they're not reliable.
Typically not reliable.
Well, that's the worst then. You have someone
showing up to a property not clean.
Or not clean properly. This is hotel standard clean, right? And we have a very, like Spencer had already said it, we hold them accountable, and we're very strict with them. But we also pay a premium. Like, we're not paying $50 a clean. We're paying almost over $200 for some of these people per clean, right? Plus garbage removal, plus pool maintenance if needed, right? You need someone who's maintenance, who's able to go around at any moment's time. Like, we've had AC units at 8-9 o'clock at night cut out in the middle of July recently, and we've had a guy there within half an hour. He doesn't work for us, he's just a contractor, but we pay him well to do this.
I just want to emphasize the point that you brought up. It's like, you need to separate investment from living, from use. I find it often comes with novices, and again, it's just really just lack of education. Very common, I get people calling me asking they want Florida, and then I'm like, have you Googled Florida insurance? Right? And then once they do, and then like, okay, now once you've done that, Google Florida 30-year-old condos, right? Because a condo building collapsed back in 2020, killing 98 people. Which is
in Miami.
I forget which. It was a coastal city. I forget which one. But like, I just can't believe that happened in America. That a building collapsed. My point is that separate recreational use from investment, because with a different lens, it tells you different things. I love Florida. I'll go to Florida. I'll go rent. I love Muskoka cottages, but I'll rent them. I won't buy one, right? I'm glad to pay thousands of dollars that we do for a week, so that I don't have to deal with the maintenance, and I'm not in that business. And my experience is similar to yours, that it's hard to build a team in certain areas.
Definitely.
And that's what I'm trying to extract from you two as being experts is, if you, for listener, if they want to get into this business strategy, go to areas where you can build teams.
Yes.
100%. Right.
And typically if someone's starting out in this business, like we always say, start out where you are, like in your own backyard or somewhere close to you, or an area you know really well, because you're there and you can have a bit of control until you kind of get it together and you know what you're doing.
Yeah, learn the business.
Exactly. Yeah. And we do like working with owners, even with investors. We don't mind that they want to go use the property from time to time, like Spencer said, because we want them to have pride of ownership. We want them to see this as an investment, but be proud to be like, hey, I'm coming during the week in October, which isn't as like high season, and I'm bringing my friends because I can't wait to show them the property. Because if they have pride of ownership, they will invest back into it, they will maintain it, because we don't have ownership in this property. We can say, hey, you need to do X, Y, and Z, but they could say no. Yeah,
even our JV partners, that's like part of it. It's like, yes, it's like, you know what, you might be giving up 1% or 2% on your cash on cash return, but you get to go down and use this thing. You know, obviously we'll steer them away from those weekends, but if they go down with friends, like, it is that emotion that, like, hey, we created this unique space, this really cool thing that people come down and use and love, and it makes money.
Can we show some pictures?
Yeah.
Anything
We'd
you're
have to go.
particularly proud of?
I don't know if it would be on our feed. Do we have anything on our Instagram? Be more so.
Yeah, because I think I've seen
I mean,
several
that-
of your stories.
Well, like
That
this
middle
one here,
one.
the middle one, that's from the balcony of our one in Niagara Lakes, one of our with a JV partner. So yeah, this is off the master suite. This is what people wake up to in the morning, right? And it is like, something small, but like again, these are like the things people go out there with a coffee in the morning, and the sun rises just to the left of myself, which also overlooks vineyards. So you go out there early enough, it's quite a peaceful morning, and that's why we love these properties in Niagara on the Lake, where you're not staring at houses, you're staring at vineyards, right?
Right. Yeah, it's a totally different feel when you have a coffee on a porch staring at a vineyard than.
And we don't
Being
typically
into
stay
something.
at that property. It does really well, and we use it very much as an investment. We live like 20 minutes away, but just experiencing that, I was like, I am so proud of this house, and I'm so excited that other people get to experience this.
Very cool.
And it financially does really well.
What's like a weekend? I don't know. How do you guys price
July and August are definitely your highest. We're over 1,500 a night on the weekends, over 1,000 during the week that we're getting. Like this property here, it brings in over 150,000 gross a year. Net's about 65 to 70 a year. The last 3 years, it's done in and around that. We're going to make some additions to that property, I think, though.
Is it yours?
Yeah, so it's a JV, so
Sorry.
yeah, so we have ownership in it. But again, the way we had it is they were the money partner, we were the operations, so we took care of a lot of like the renovations and getting it ready, and we run everything. So,
What kind of additions are you planning?
well, there's two things that we want to do that we're back and forth. The main one is we want to do a sport court, pickleball. Specifically, it is like a super popular sport, and our guest avatar for this property is 40-plus-year-old couples, a lot of families that we get, because it is a higher nightly rate. That's typically the guests that we've seen come through in this space, and we know that 40-plus-year-old people, they love the sport of pickleball, but also families love being able to have that activity on this property, because a lot of people do spend a lot of time at this property because it has the hot tubs, the saunas, the vineyards. It's got a nice outdoor patio.
So spending a lot of time on site.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
they're coming there to be immersed in the vineyards, right? Yes, they're going to wineries and they're going into Old Town Niagara on the Lake, but they're also spending a lot of time here in the mornings and coming back here for dinners and just taking in the scenery because they're paying for that, right? That's what's kind of nice about creating these types of places is like, this isn't a place where people are dropping their bags off and leaving. Like, we're creating an experience that they're going to hang out at. So, the pickleball sport court, we want to do like a basketball in there as well. Just that gives that little extra influence for people, but also, they'll get to enjoy it a lot more as well.
And uniqueness.
But we
There's
do have
nothing like it.
Yeah, we do have a barn there that's pretty worn out that we're considering turning into like some sort of games room, hangout space. It's got like one of those sliding garage doors that we want to do like a glass one with a pad that overlooks the vineyards. So that's probably step
3 to 5 year play.
Yeah, we think the sport court will definitely bring in a higher ROI. But the nice thing about that and what really excites me is there's no data on it, right? We can't really put an exact marker on how much more it will bring in, but that's what excites me about it because no one else has it. Is that like, I know that it's going to bring in more money, but what excites me is that no one else is going to have something like that. So how much is the exciting part?
This will be interesting to follow.
Yeah.
Before we were recording, we were talking about how a lot of people are in the news for the wrong reasons. I've talked about it many times. One of the lessons from the financial crisis was whoever went under usually was because they couldn't support their debt, right? And then in today's news, it's people with generally hard money loans and they can't support it now. So my question to you was, how do you finance a short-term rental?
It's a lot tougher in Canada now. Most lenders won't touch short-term rentals. I know some of like the B and C lenders will. I know that they're talking about changing that. Like I said, we've moved more into the States for that reason because they're a little bit more accommodating when it comes to short-term rentals. but yeah, that is the challenge when you are purchasing now, is you need to be upfront with the mortgage lender on what this property is going to be. I know there's a lot of people that will say, you know what, I'm thinking of moving in here, and then they change their mind. But again, that is not something we would recommend doing, because if they do find out, you can get in a lot of trouble for that. So that is the big challenge, I'd say, in Canada right now. But I would just say talk to your mortgage broker, see what you can do before you purchase anything, if you are going to go that route.
Right. Because for me, financing drives a lot of my decision making for investing. Like I'm self-employed and I'm capped here in Canada, and everyone runs into a cap. Versus in the States, it seems to be there's way more options. So what would financing look like in the States?
Well,
better.
Yeah, a lot better. So for our Ellicottville ones,
better.
Well, yeah, because that's the thing. Like these ones weren't necessarily, they were value adds, but we were never going to go in and refinance and pull money out. They were more value adds in terms of they were vacation rental value adds. So we updated the outside. We created more like unique things. We weren't doing kitchens and bathrooms and bedrooms, that kind of stuff, where it was really going to increase the value of the property. It was going to increase the value of the income that it brings in. So for that, because we bought it in 2020 and 2021 when interest rates were super low, we got like 2.2 and 2.59. But the beauty of it was it's 30 years. It's not 5 amortized. It's 30 years. So we have that rate for as long as the property exists, right? So that's what we like, because it's predictable.
But that sounds like that's very cheap.
Yeah.
In any context.
Yeah, that it's not like that now. Like, your interest rates are triple that. But at the same time, you have the ability to lock that in for 30 years. So if rates do come down, or you're happy with something, you have the ability to do that. So I know a lot of people now, like the exciting thing about that is interest rates are higher. Yes, the numbers might not look as good on paper right now. If we're talking just vacation rentals, this is really any investment. But if you can make sense of the numbers and still provide some cash flow and still be comfortable with the rates now, and maybe even going up 1 or 2%, like obviously you want to hedge both sides of it. If for whatever reason it does come down, a lot of the times that means value will go up. You can pull some money out if you want to refinance, or you can just lock in a better rate and improve your cash flow position. So, a lot of people are getting scared away from the rates right now, but we're looking especially into the States for this, because we personally see a lot of opportunity in that, where it's like, yeah, okay, you're not bringing in $5,000 of cash flow every single month, but you have the ability to add value add to the property, increase amenities on that side of it. But also if rates do come down, there's definitely a very big win scenario there.
And short-term rentals are very funny in the sense that in your typical, like, when you're going through the numbers to see if you want to purchase a property as a real estate investor, there are some Airbnbs or short-term rentals that won't pencil the way that you want them to pencil, like on paper. But we know based on our experience that we can look and be like, this is in a great location. Location is huge, right? We can put in some money because this is a long-term play. Like, I'm not expecting to get insane cash on cash return after year one. Short-term rentals is a long-term play. And you can bring those numbers up with different amenities, adding into the property. We reinvest thousands, tens of thousands back into these properties every single year, because you need to keep up with competition around. But if you had looked at some of these properties and looked at the numbers, I don't know if many people would have really bought them if they didn't know how to get these up to what others in the area were doing.
Yeah, the one property we looked at in Ellicottville.
Recently?
Oh, no. This is like the one we ended up buying. Originally we were going to do it with someone else, and they're a very well-known investor in the area. And like, they just, we showed them the numbers that existed, but we were saying like, hey, like, the good news is there's a ton of opportunity. People don't know how to take photos in Ellicottville. They don't know how to market it. They do not know how to price, right? And there's a lot of missing amenities that we can add to really bring this up. But it's hard to just say that, because I guess, yes, it is speculative because you are being the leader in that industry, but we've seen how that has impacted other areas where people have already done that. So we tried to bring that data to it, but I see how that will scare even the most seasoned investors away, because it does seem speculative. But sure enough, we still bought that property, and it ended up being like a very, very good investment because of that. But there is that risk of like, we were 99% confident that it was going to bring it, but because there's no data in that area supporting it, I can see how it would scare a lot of people away.
Right, but the price point is a lot less risk than.
Yeah, that too, right? You're not buying a $1.5 million property. You're $500,000-600,000, right? Like it's more feasible there. And to your financing question, I know we didn't really touch on that. In Ellicottville, because it's so close to the border, we were able to get 80% LTV, so 20% down. There was a little bit more fees involved, but we were able to only have to put 20% down because they do the cross-border banking. So RBC TD, for example.
Oh, you still got Canadian mortgage.
Yeah.
From a Canadian bank, but their U.S. division.
They were able to use your Canadian credit because there's a lot of Canadians that have invested down there.
The rate was so low.
Yeah.
Can you scale that though? Like, whose credit are they using? Your Canadian credit?
Yeah.
You can only do that when I think you're close to the border. Like, we weren't able to do that down in Florida, but once you have property and you're on title in the U.S., then you can get your ITIN anyways, which is basically a tax identification number, and then you can start getting more favorable rates in other areas of the U.S. using that.
Too funny. I think there's more Canadians in Florida than anywhere.
Yeah, I know.
They're tracking the border rather than where the Canadians are.
I think Florida wanted 75% LTV because
That's not bad.
No, we had a property under contract. I mean, the rate was higher though. The rate was higher than if you were obviously a U.S. citizen with an SSN, and
It was 75%, but then they wanted a $10,000 fee as well.
Yeah, the fee was higher.
There was a back end fee.
It's definitely, it's more skin in the game for a Canadian still versus if you're, if you have a credit record or somehow get a social security number and have good built-in credit down there. They're definitely a lot more aggressive. And
you can also do that with U.S. credit cards. Like, start getting into U.S. credit cards.
You guys know this game.
Absolutely.
Yes, from the points and miles side, of course, but even outside of that, if you start getting into U.S., then you start building U.S. credit history, and then they will give you a tax identification number, and then you can start using that to actually purchase properties at a more favorable rate.
Yeah,
and so you don't need to just purchase to get it.
And you can do that. It's a bit of a workaround, but you can get that without having an ITIN or an SSN. Like, you can get a U.S. credit card. You need an address and stuff in the States, of course, but you can get creative. If you have friends that live down there, just get it sent to there, and you have to open a bank account, but you can open a bank account easily.
Do you have any pictures of the Ellicottville property on your IG? Or
we probably do. If you just keep scrolling, I'd have to take a look, but
I don't actually remember.
I know we do eventually. I just don't know how far down you're going to have to go.
Why do you guys talk about it more often?
I don't know. We do talk about it, maybe just not all the time. And we love the travel side of it, so you're going to see a lot of that on our feed. This is why we do it, right? Because we want to be able to go experience these things. We learn a lot when we travel. We stay at a lot of nice 5-star hotels, and we get a lot of hospitality tricks from that. But do we have
our personal investments? We did that. We talked about that.
Is it in that one though, or no? I just
no.
There is a. I want to see if we have it on here. Not sure if we do.
156 grand. 129 grand. These are big rent numbers.
We would have profiled our Ellicottville ones when we redid the games room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would have been October of last year, but yeah.
So before we were recording, we were talking about what's your next property. Do we talk more about Ellicottville? How do you get into it? What does the property look like?
So yeah, the challenge, I wouldn't say the challenge, well, it is a challenge with Ellicottville, is that it's a small town. And there's not a ton of supply that's on the market.
But they have tons of visitors, don't they?
Tons of visitors. It's a tourist town. So that's what we like about it, is that the reason why we're bullish there is because majority of their businesses, the restaurants.
I want to look at how many visitors they get, because I'm sure it's an obscene number.
Yeah. Well, it's especially, it's a weekend town, right? You get a lot of people from, Buffalo area, Canadians especially, and then you get a lot of people from Ohio, anywhere with
Canadians.
Tons of Canadians.
Yeah. It's not far. An hour and a half from Niagara.
It's not far at all.
For someone for the West End of Toronto, it's almost the same as going to Blue Mountain in terms of commute.
I'd say it's pretty close. Once you get over the Buffalo border, you're about an hour away. So yeah, it's not super far, but we love it because it is a tourist town, and more than likely not, again, going back to the regulations, they're going to be in favor of it. I know they're talking about bringing in more of a policy for it, because right now there's the village area, and that's pretty strict in terms of getting a license, but it's like a specific, very, very detailed outline on their city website of like what zoning that is, and then all like the medium density and lower density zones, which again outlines it with the streets. It's very, cut and paste are areas that you are allowed to operate in. Without, like, you don't need a license in those areas. They just allow you to do it. What I think they're going to probably move to, and they're talking about, but again, it's probably going to be a while from now, is putting more of a licensing program in place. And the main reason is just to make sure that operators are doing their job and not just renting it to bad guests, right? Because I think in any community, that is the main concern, is that, if you have two residents living beside an Airbnb and that person's mismanaging it, and there's parties and they're up till 2 a.m, creating noise and garbage and all of that. That's what really makes the headlines in the news about Airbnbs, right? They don't highlight the tens of thousands of families that come to the area and go to bed at 10 o'clock and leave the place in better condition than when they got there, literally. So I think it's good that they're looking to do stuff like that, but yeah, that's Ellicottville in a nutshell.
So Holiday Valley gets 1.5 million visits.
Yeah.
The ski resort itself, that's it.
Yeah. And they have a private one there as well. A lot of members called Hollamont. That's where we haven't found it yet, but that's where the one that we purchased is on. It's literally a 30-second walk to the ski lift.
Yeah, so tell me, paint the listener a picture of what your next property would be like.
In Ellicottville or just in general?
In general. Because if you're going to put your money into it, I'm sure people will be interested in. They always say, like, don't listen to what people are saying. Mm-mm. Follow what their money's doing.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think we still love Niagara-on-the-Lake. Like, even the property that we were looking at before, that's a variable mortgage, and it's still done very, very well. And that was an over $1 million purchase price. I think you need to really target municipalities, like Spencer was just saying, who need tourism to thrive. That's your Ellicottville, Niagara-on-the-Lake. Like, big hotels cannot go into Niagara-on-the-Lake because they have to be historic. Yeah. Buildings can't be built over a certain height.
Yeah, but it's really low height too.
Very low height. So they need short-term rentals. They send us like thank you letters for operating every single year. The city's easy to work with and operate in. The purchase prices are high, but we still find that it works. And then on the Ellicottville side, like, I feel like we would do both, because Ellicottville is our off season, right? So Ellicottville's high season is Niagara-on-the-Lake's slow season. And we like having a little bit of both, right? Because you get the ski town. And so they'll never get rid of short-term rentals because they need people to come and stay and ski, because that's their high season. But I think the location in these places is really where it's at. You can't go into Niagara-on-the-Lake and find a subdivision and find the cheapest house and be like, I'm in Niagara-on-the-Lake, I should crush it, because people want to see what they came to Niagara-on-the-Lake for, which is vineyards. So you want property, they want farmhouse, they want country, and that's what our properties would give them. We wouldn't find something in a subdivision. And then on the Ellicottville side, they want to see like mountains and ski chalet and lots of wood inside, that typical ski chalet vibe.
Close to the mountain.
Close to the mountain, that kind of thing.
Yeah, like, we're definitely big quality over quantity people. Yeah. I would much rather have something that you are very proud of when you step in. Like, every time we go to both Ellicottville properties, because they're both different properties. Where one's got more land, but it's got two, if you want to call them hills, they're mountains, but they're not mountains, on both sides. When you walk there, you look right, it's just the big valley, and you look left, it's the big valley, and there's a little creek that runs in the background. So it's very peaceful, more tranquil, versus our other one that's right on the ski hill. Same thing, it looks up at a mountain, but you're also you're in a much closer proximity. Yes, you have neighbors left and right, but you still have the views. You do have that. You step in there and you go, wow. And that's kind of what our next property will be like, is something where you have proximity to two things, like ski towns, beach, whatever it may be, but also creates that unique experience of, like, there's views, there's amenities on the property that people get to come and enjoy, that you would be proud of when you get to go and visit and when you vacation.
My first time to Ellicottville, I thought I had no idea what to expect, but like, my context is like today's Blue Mountain, It's
but
nothing.
much smaller.
Yeah.
Like
Way
it's like two
smaller.
blocks is the downtown, but it's so cute. When we were
It
just
is
there,
cute.
and you walk down there, and you're like, this is such a cute town. They
Yeah.
really have it done up nicely with all the flowers, all the little shops. Like people love that stuff.
I'm
We love
surprised
it.
no big private equity's gone in and tried to repeat something like a Blue Mountain there.
There's
Because if it did, their
Yeah.
summer business would explode.
There's a hotel going up apparently now, but again, like not everyone wants to stay in a hotel. They want to stay in a chalet,
Yeah.
right? Like there's always going to be that market for it.
And our homes sleep anywhere between 8 and 12, right? And those people want to be together. They don't want their individual homes. They want to have dinners together. They want to be in the hot tub together. They want to be around the fire pit together, right? And no hotel will ever take that away.
My friends are like that too. Like even when we still stay at Blue Mountain, we rent an Airbnb. But more my point was like when you have a big village, there's so much to do, and then that attracts so many more people.
Yeah.
Someone told me that Blue Mountain attracts more visitors in the summer than the winter, and that just blew my mind.
Yeah.
That's what we like about Ellicottville, because it's not just one high season. Like even this summer, we had a very, very good summer because again, there's hiking trails, big mountain biking trails in that area, so a lot of people come down for that.
Yeah.
But just being in that little town, there's lots of shops, patios, restaurants. They
They have a good
lot-
golf course. You would love it.
Amazing golf. Yeah, it's very, very difficult, but it's yeah, really nice golf course, right? It's got everything that a summer vacation town, should have, really.
Because I've talked to people about, again, our cottage country here in Canada, in Ontario, is like crazy expensive. Because I already have some friends who are already saying they're going to look in the States for a cottage. And this kind of seems like competing with you, but so please get into what does the property look like? Tell me more about this target property that you have in mind in Ellicottville.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would want to say something where it's like more of a chalet vibe, but we would say we probably do a hybrid between the two. So like the first one that we got, the more expensive one that's right on the private hill, is 100% chalet. It's beautiful, right? Like you walk in, it's just under 3,000 square feet.
That's big.
Yeah, it's a good size.
How much did you pay for that one?
$525. It was listed at $589. We got it for $525. But that was back in 2021. Prices have gone up a little bit since then. Not crazy appreciation in Ellicottville, but there is some. But
If that was in Collingwood, that'd be a small fortune.
yeah, it would be. That's what we're saying. We kind of joked this would be $2 million in Collingwood. Just given the fact that you can walk to the ski lift.
Right.
It's right there.
You see my point why more Canadians would be looking to this for cottages?
Yeah, especially if you're going to use
Or
it and
chalets.
stuff. I mean, it's US dollars, but even then, still, it's quite reasonable. Property taxes are high there, right? I think that one we're over 10 grand, or actually right around 10.5 a year for that one, and you get nothing for it. You still have to do private garbage, snow removal, all of that.
Holy Hannah. Okay.
So yeah, they
But that's probably why it keeps prices down too.
yeah, for sure. But then our other property, this is more in the country, and this is the one that has the detached garage. We turned into a games room. It's got the fire pit because, the first one is on a hill, so it's a big slant, and putting in a fire pit there would be very difficult. So on the second story balcony, we've got the luxury lounge set with a gas fire table, so you can still be outside and take in the views and have the fire. But we'd want to, I would say, probably try to find something in the middle where it's a little bit nicer on the inside chalet, like the first one, but with a bit of property with views, right? Even if it's just outside of town, that's fine, because the other one is about a 5-minute drive outside of Ellicottville versus this one's right in it.
Sorry, I just paused you there. Does your company have a website that with pictures of these?
Yeah,
Or should we go to the Airbnb ad?
yeah, we can go to that. How do I get it to you guys?
We can Google something.
If you just go to Ellicott, if you just go to Airbnb and Google Ellicottville, you can go to our profile from there. We'll find the property.
Oh, for the listeners' benefit, we do post these to YouTube as well, so we actually have a big screen in our background where we're gonna look at this stuff. We try to be like Joe Rogan once.
No, I love it. But yeah, I would say definitely an in between. We see the ones that do really well there too have that a little bit of land, saunas, fire pits.
Ellicottville? Is that what we do?
Yeah.
Yeah, for where you have to search Ellicottville.
I would just search any week too, because we're pretty booked. You're not gonna find it if you search
E-L-I.
ELLI.
Oh, 2 L's.
They're there. Then you can just hit like flexible, do a week. Yeah, just hit search. You're good there. right. It might be faster if we go right to.
How's this sorted? Actually, while we're in here, how does
Well, this you're searching any week, so it's going to give you
what's available?
Yeah, it's going to give you the majority of the properties that are available. But if you just want to,
I think these are important things for people to know.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
so because that's the thing too, and like for your pricing strategies, that like if you are searching for a specific date, like I said, if you have dates that aren't available and guests are searching for that date, you're never going to be found, right? So you do want to be putting in a little bit more of an aggressive pricing strategy to show up ideally on the first page. Right here, we're just searching for any week, so it might make sense to go on the map here. So go kind of like right in this left side. So see where Ellicottville, go left of it. Yeah, right. See where that gray patch is? Zoom in on that. There it is. That's the property. So yeah, you can click in on that. So this is the first one that we bought. That's right on the hill.
Oh wow, that's sub 3,000 square feet.
I think it's like 2,800.
Gee, this is nice.
So yeah, we've done some recent updates to it, but the nice thing about this is it was a previous Canadian owner, so most of this came furnished, so we worked that into the mortgage as well. But we've recently we redid the floor in the kitchen and the dining room, but like we add things like this: espresso machines, coffee.
I love all the wood.
The kitchen was like that already.
Pretty much, minus the floor. We redid the floor, and obviously we upgraded. We added some. We're big water snobs, so we added like an RO system in there because it makes coffee better, and the water's safe to drink there. It's just people don't always want to have to buy bottled water when they go in. So, and there's still some updates that we can make. Like we redid that shower, not intentionally. The previous one was leaking.
Yeah, that's the truth about real estate investing. Stuff breaks and costs money.
But I mean, really, like what it is like the back of the patio here. Like when you're out there, you've got your hot tub in this, and you're overlooking kind of this view here.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
So it's very peaceful, and that's kind of what we want to try to do. Like not just a subdivision, right? You want to have views and.
How big's the lot? It looks like there's nobody nearby.
No, there is. It's just because it's on such a slant. I don't know the total size of the lot, but that'll give you a better indication of it there. That one photo on the left, like you can see, you've got a property right to our left, and there is one to the right as well. It's just kind of hidden by trees.
What about back neighbor?
Well, it's more like way down. That's like the thing. It's like you kind of look on top of their house just because it is on the hill. And the thing with this property is there's so many levels. There's like 6 levels to it. It's like 3 or 4 steps down, 3 or 4 steps down, 3 or 4 steps down. It just keeps going.
Lots of stairs.
That's just super cool. And this was your first venture?
This is the first one we bought, and then we purchased another one in Ellicottville probably like a month later. That's outside.
This is probably the one we're the most proud of, like getting people to come by, like our friends and stuff, if we go down for a couple days during the week. But the other one that we have is the more profitable, like net.
They're both very profitable, but the other one was just like, actually, if you click, so go back to the listing, it'll be faster. Like click on that, like, click on this picture again, go back into the listing. No.
Oh, go through your profile, right?
Yeah. Sorry, go back to that where you just were.
Go back to the property, Adam, and then click on the
click into that.
Operators.
And then scroll down slightly, see where it says, click on the logo. Click on the logo again. And scroll down. All right, now we'll find the other ones. So you can view all.
Oh, you have a lot of listings.
You can go to view all listings. It might be faster.
Most of these are management clients.
So like see where it says view all listings below that.
You manage that many? Mm-hmm. What's the total of properties you manage?
Just under 50.
Just under 50 now, but we have a bunch going live. Try to find the other Ellicottville
one. These are all like really pretty. Like there's no subdivision houses.
There's a couple, but yeah, we try to stay away from them.
Okay, I see one there. Yeah. Okay, so stay away from subdivision houses.
I mean, it depends. If you get the right deal on it, it can make sense. But again, I get you're dealing with neighbors and all of that. There's more variables when it comes to that. It's probably going to be there on the right side there. We got to redo the photos on this one. I just remember that. So this is the one we did with the games room. Again, this property we purchased for $240,000. furnished as well. And then you can see the games in there on the top right. This was just an empty garage space. It was already insulated. It had heat pumps in there. So it was just like a skeleton. But it was already fully serviced electrical, and it had the heat pump, so air and heat.
Nice.
So all we did was we hired a design company to come up with this design, and we did the work ourselves. We went down, and I'm never doing that paint job again, but safe to say we did that ourselves. And really all we added was, the TV, the pool table, the basketball game, some furniture, and
Pool table, eh? You trust that with your guests.
Honestly, that wasn't a very expensive pool table. I think it was like a $600 pool table, but you wanted something that was like the center of attention, and we didn't want to leave it like open. I think that's what the design company said as well. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there's damage claims for everything. So if it ever does come to that, our cleaners are
We've
pretty
had
good.
to replace some of the pool cues, but that's
People just
that's
drop
about it.
them, like they put them up and they fall over.
Who knows?
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. So this one isn't as like aesthetically pleasing on the inside. Like the other one, I feel like is super chalet. They have like the wood everywhere on the like very chalet vibes, which I love. This one is like an old converted schoolhouse, so it's cute, but it's more in the country, so you get way more of like a not winter, so like spring, summer, fall crowd. And because our covering costs on are so low, because we bought it for a little over 200,000,
Right.
it still brings in a couple $1,000s every weekend all the time, and then more in the winter. So our cash on cash, and then especially when we added this games room, our cash on that has just really skyrocketed. Like this is the most profitable home in our portfolio that we own.
So wouldn't you want more of them?
Yeah,
Yes.
That's why I say we probably do a hybrid between the two.
But if you looked at it, it wouldn't pencil the way that I feel like others would pencil, if that makes sense.
Well,
Yes.
when we ran the numbers on this, we were running projections of like, hey, if this does like 40 grand a year, this makes like close to $800 a month. If it does 50 grand a year, we're very happy, and it's going to do over 6 figures this year because of the garage, right? And the garage cost us
Okay, so you're
$8
double
grand.
very happy.
Yes,
That's
like
a good return.
that's kind of what we looked at. But penciling, it didn't do that because there wasn't a lot of comps per se.
Yeah.
We like this games room did not exist in
Right.
Ellicottville, so we're like, are we throwing 10 grand at a wall and hoping it sticks? Probably not, but there was
But it's 10 grand. It's
but
not-
I couldn't go to an
not in the
investor
world.
with like hard numbers and being like, look, if you invest 10 grand into this games room, here's what it's going to return. We didn't know, but
Yeah, but when you pencil the next one, you should have a lot more confidence.
exactly.
And there's also a lot of issues with that house because it's in the country. There was like a whole bunch of like animal issues. It's right beside a cow farm, so we didn't know if that would really impact the reviews or. So we had to put a lot of time and effort into this property that we did not, and money, and that we did not have to put into the other one.
Right.
But now that we've spent all the money up front, we got it all to where it needs to go, and it has been pretty good since then.
Cow farm.
people love it actually. They're like,
Yeah,
my
I-
kids, like, because they can
Kids.
walk over and there's like cows right on the fence.
Did you say your kids?
No, not our kids. I said kids, like, because we get a lot of families that come here, right? Because like the outdoor space, the games room brings in a lot of families, and yeah, like originally we're like, oh, there's like a farm here, but luckily it doesn't really smell, and the kids love it because they get to go over and see the cows, and yeah, it's completely different from the other one.
Because on paper, I want a portfolio of these.
Same.
100%. Yeah, like we were scared because again, both of these we purchased sight unseen because this was during COVID. We couldn't get there, so we're running the numbers. We had people doing FaceTime videos, walkthroughs, and it basically got to the point where it's like even if they did on the lower side, it was still safe. So we were okay with that. But when we went out to see this the first time, we're like, oh no,
Sell
like
it.
what did we buy? But again, we just, like I said, did a lot of work to the backyard and, updated a few things on the inside. And yeah, slowly but surely it started becoming quite profitable.
And you did one at a time.
No.
No.
That would make sense, but no.
No, this was months apart, probably like 2 or 3 months apart.
That's not too bad.
Yeah.
You can get a
For
lot
a
done in 2 months.
for a short-term rental, when you couldn't get down there through 2020 and 2021, when we were flying from Toronto to Washington, back to Buffalo, so we could rent a car, so we can go over there. Like it was
Excuse
a lot.
me, that's how you get there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like we were on a tail end of a trip back into Turkey, and we landed in Boston. And we're like, why would we go back to Canada we might as well just book a domestic flight to Buffalo and go to the property, so we're all jet lagged and whatever, and go and do like 3-4 days of work really quick. And
Right. And you got shit done though.
yeah.
It's pretty amazing. No, so say today I want to get into a deal like this. Let's use this as a sample deal. What's financing look like?
It'd still be, again, if you're Canadian, you can. There's a few mortgage brokers like TD and RBC, and then I think First National is a good one as well, where they'll be able to look at your Canadian credit.
Right.
Don't quote me on this, but I'm still positive you can get 80% LTV, so 20% down. Obviously, you got to do the conversion. Your US dollars now.
On a declared declared Airbnb, you can.
Correct.
You can't get that in Canada.
Probably
These
not.
are Canadian banks.
Yeah. Probably not. Again, like we haven't acquired one here in 2 or 3 years. So again, that might have changed. But when we were down there, that's, we disclose everything. This is what we're doing. Same thing with insurance. You have to tell them what this is going to be for.
Yeah. What's insurance on these? Is it short-term insurance, short-term rental insurance?
Commercial insurance.
So like some sort of hospitality recreational business insurance policy.
Yeah, like you've got like at least $2 million liability and loss of rent, those types of things, right? If you have like an issue and you have to cancel bookings for whatever reason because you have a flood or
so it's a business insurance.
Yeah, it's
not your owner occupied insurance.
No, it's
much
nothing
more expensive.
It's probably double what you would pay for home insurance, if
It's
not
not bad considering the liability exposure.
But it's really not that bad. Like, some people pay more for internet and cable. If you get like the really souped up version, it's worth it. That's for sure.
Interesting.
But yeah, I would say like something in between these two would be our next one. Like, because if you scroll maybe down to the bottom, like it gives the one picture gives you a pretty good view of like the garage. Like if you go all the way to the bottom, keep going. Sorry, up a bit more. My fault. Like right here, because like on that side you still look into whatever you want to call it, the hills, the mountains, but then behind it has it as well. So like when you're at the property, you're kind of surrounded by this. So it's just like very peaceful, and we really like that aspect of it. No neighbors. But the problem is like houses like these don't go for sale every week, right? You kind of got to keep an eye on it and try to scoop it up when you can.
Right.
But also there's certain areas here that are more floodplain prone due to the runoff, so you do want to make sure that you're not in the hot spot there. So yeah, and then obviously with the zoning, you want to make sure that you're good. Like this area is fine, but if you're going to be more so near the ski hills, there's certain areas and communities that don't allow it. So big look out there. Like definitely, like what I did is I just called the city before we bought these, and even though it had a pretty detailed, and they told me the very detailed zoning map, I'm like, here's the address, here's what I want to buy, like, is this in the zoning, and can you confirm that? And they did. They're like, yeah, you're medium density, you're good to go. I'm like, okay, because I didn't want any surprises. We didn't want to close on it and then find out that we can't do it. So I would always recommend doing that in any municipality if they have like some sort of
anything
licensing.
you're doing.
Yeah.
A downside to Ellicottville is finding trades is very, very difficult and very expensive.
Yep.
Worse than here?
Oh
Yes.
Oh, gee.
They gouge
really?
you.
It can get worse?
They gouge you. I mean, here's the thing. You'll find someone eventually because there's other neighboring larger cities, but it's not like you're going to call and get 3 quotes and you're going to be happy with one of them. You're 8+ quotes until you find someone that can do it. And even then, it's like, are they reliable? Are they going to show up? It's because the nature of the majority of people that own here, their second and third homes, they know that, hey, we're going to charge a premium if you want this work done. It's small enough where people can do that.
I imagine it's much like that in our cottage countries too.
Yes.
Yeah. Muskoka's, I'm assuming, is the same. Everyone that I know that owns there brings their trade people in from the city to do work and pay them a premium because it's still cheaper.
Right. Yeah. My friends do that. And then what big cities are close by?
Well, Springville, I mean, when I say big, it's got a Walmart.
That's big time.
Yeah. So like Springville is probably a half an hour away, and then I'm gonna butcher it, but it's either Olean or Olean. That's Olean. They've got that was the famous Home Depot runs that we made, but they're all about half an hour away. They've got a subway there, so it's good. But yeah, there's 2 pretty big towns about half an hour away.
And then Buffalo is what, an hour?
Yeah.
An hour away.
Running out of time, we still didn't talk about travel rewards. Might need a part 3.
Part 3.
Yeah, just on that.
Again, we're running out of time. Any final thoughts you want to share with the guests, listeners?
Well, we can leave a cliffhanger because all of this, when we do these projects, we also get a few first and business class flights out of them. So stay tuned for part 3.
Wow. And then you guys have, I see on your website you offer, what's your website first of all?
It's spencerandashley.com.
Yeah, very creative. Maybe rebranding to Ashley and Spencer, who knows?
Yeah.
And then you guys have courses, you have some free giveaway stuff there as well?
No, sometimes we do free webinars, which I think we'll be doing one soon, because we've actually gotten a lot of people asking how we keep our cleaners like accountable and stuff. So we'll be probably doing a free webinar on that. Spencer did like a 3-hour pricing, paid pricing webinar, I guess, or a course workshop that we're selling, and that's like 3 hours in depth of exactly all the things that he does for our short-term rental pricing, which what I think was like an insane value, because that's everything you've learned over years and years and years for like a couple $100. And then we do what you see here is obviously private one-on-one consultation calls, just basically about anything. But that's about it. We will be doing probably some sort of mentorship more than like a course, more on the management side, and that would be upcoming probably next 6 months or so.
And you're looking for more clients to property manager for?
That, like, we're open to JVs as well, but again, we're very specific on who we work with. We're quality over quantity, and we need to like the people we work with as well. That's very important. So we're it's a marathon, not a sprint. Gotta enjoy it too.
Yeah, life is short. Mm-hmm. Very cool. Any final words for the listener? Again, it's a scary time for many people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think short-term rentals are still a very viable option. I know some people don't believe that. I think we've said this before, but you have to be in the top 10% of properties, and then you'll see the profits that I think that we see. Like, we reinvest quite often if you're a C and B property, or if this is a like last resort and you're half-assing it, you are not going to do well. You get into short-term rentals intentionally, not because selling won't work, renting won't work, and whatever, right? But still a very big viable option. It's just a big business. And then on the co-host side, you don't really need money to get into short-term rentals. You can start by co-hosting for a percentage of gross rents, the way that we did, and then we've built an entire business. That's our entire lifestyle from that. So
very cool. And then what's next for you guys? Sounds like you might expand, buy another property.
Yeah, I mean,
we're expand to, or?
We are looking at acquiring. I think Niagara-on-the-Lake and Ellicottville would be probably the two we keep an eye on the most. But obviously open to other markets. The management business, we are expanding more into the States, so that's going to be our big push in the next 365. Obviously, we're expanding in Canada too. Like, Muskoka's still on our list. We just need that person that wants to work with us, that can be the boots on the ground. And
if that person's listening.
Yeah, exactly. You never know. A lot of them are realtors too, because we get them a lot of representation too. That's kind of it. We find that goes hand in hand. Like, our guy in Kawarth, this is a real estate agent, and he's got his own vacation rental, so he's got his own skin in the game. So it was a perfect fit for us.
Remind our listeners what markets you service.
So we are South Ontario, so basically Burlington down. We are in the GTA now recently, so we do cover basically all the GTA, what areas allow it.
But it has to be pretty unique property, I imagine.
Unique property and being able to do it. Yeah, like if you're in a condo, they have to allow it, and it's got to be a primary. There's a ton of restrictions, but still doable. Kawartha Lakes, we service that. We are in Norfolk County, so.
Sorry, where's Norfolk?
Simcoe area.
It's more like,
Lake Erie.
Simcoe, Dunnville, Port Dover, that area.
Yeah, Port Dover.
It's like little cottage country down that way.
It's a nice spot out there.
It actually is.
Really nice. Yeah, then we are also in BC, so we service like the mainland and the island, and Ellicottville. And soon, hopefully, maybe California, but we'll see.
Any part of California?
Where's Kevin going?
LA, Huntington Beach, like those kind of areas around there.
So you're
one of our partners just moved down there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Free place to stay. We go down.
It's a big decision to move there because it ain't cheap.
No. But I mean, we're so preliminary on that. Haven't really dove into the markets too much. I know from like an acquiring standpoint, it's from what we've heard from investors down there, it looks a little rough, but we'll see.
Well, you need boots on ground. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah,
and
thanks for
sharing.
having us.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. If you want to learn how to invest in real estate from scratch, my team teaches beginners how to use the #1 investment strategy that I personally use in a virtual free training class every month. Go to investortraining.ca/YouTube to register for our next class. The link's also in the description as well. I publish at least 2 to 3 videos a week here, so subscribe if you want to keep learning from seasoned investors like myself and my guests. And if you're just starting out, feel free to ask questions and comment below, and I do the best to answer each of those comments and questions myself. Again, if you're ready to learn the nitty-gritty about real estate investing from a professional investor, register for our next virtual class. That's at investortraining.ca/YouTube. Thanks again for watching. See you in the next video.